Shocking truths revealed, 5 types of people who face eternal damnation. Few knew what truly happened at night beneath the cold, silvery moonlight. Shadows danced across the rocky terrain of the ancient desert. It was a night like no other, filled with whispers of fate and echoes of souls forever lost. News had spread through the tight-knit communities about 5 ominous groups marked them, for their fate teetered on the edge of eternal damnation. Were they cursed? Misguided? Or something even darker? First, there were the merchants, their pockets lined with gold but their hearts empty of compassion. They walked among the crowds, smiles painted on their faces, yet their eyes flickered with greed. Sins dripped from their fingertips like poison. Folk spoke of their deceit, how they twisted the true value of everything for a profit. Was their wealth worth the hollow echo left in their wake? Then came the hypocrites, pretending to lead, their voices loud but their actions silent. They prayed on street corners, asking for forgiveness while committing grave sins in the shadows. As the lanterns flickered, doubt crept into the hearts of the faithful. Was their facade so convincing that even they began to believe it? Next were the scoffers, laughing at the holy, mocking the righteous. Their laughter rang out, sharp in the still night, a sound that seemed to slice through the heart of hope. With every derisive snicker, they dug their own graves, blinding themselves to a fate they so belittled. What would it take for them to hear the silent call for redemption? And then there were those devoted to false idols, sacrificing their love and loyalty to the whims of powerless figures made of clay and stone. In their fervor, they lost sight of the living truth, trading joy for hollow promises. Could they reclaim their devotion before it was too late? Lastly, the silent ones stood apart, hiding their sins behind closed doors, too afraid to confront their darkness. They bore a weight that seemed unbearable, their hearts heavy with guilt and fear. Yet, they too needed a path to salvation. Would they dare to break their silence? As the night deepened, a palpable tension hung in the air. Was there hope for these lost souls? Or would they succumb to the abyss? Each type faced a mirror, reflecting back their flaws, their failures, and their fates. Could any of them turn back before the breaking dawn? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As dawn approached, the horizon whispered its first signs of light, casting a gentle glow over the shadowed landscape. Yet, the air remained thick with uncertainty, for the hearts of the 5 groups weighed heavier than the stones beneath their feet. In the stillness of the hour, they stood at a crossroads, their choices echoing not just for themselves but for generations to come. Amidst the merchants, fear crept in like a thieving wind. Their fortunes did not bring peace but gnawed at their essence. One merchant, fearing judgment, began to question the worth of his gold. "What is wealth?" he murmured to himself, "if it earns me scorn instead of respect?" An inner tumult raged within him, a flicker of resistance sparked as he recalled the joy of giving, the warmth of a genuine smile shared. Could he bear to turn from his greed, to dismantle the walls had built around his heart? Just beyond the merchants, the hypocrites gathered. Their conversations became frantic whispers as they debated the sanctity of their deeds. A leading voice, far from genuine, suggested a journey to the wilderness should suffice to reframe their narrative. "If the people see us suffer, they will believe us worthy of grace," he proclaimed. Yet, an aching doubt, did they not see that their deception compounded their misery? Stripped of their roles, could they find the courage to honestly face their imperfections? The scoffers continued to mock, yet the laughter felt more brittle as the rising sun illuminated the path before them. One, a once vibrant young man, stood silent amidst the jeers, a question lingering on his lips. Could mockery shield him from the relentless grip of despair? He felt the weight of his own empty rhetoric and for the first time considered that perhaps the jest was on him. Was he truly blind, or was he just afraid to look beyond the veil of his jests? In stark contrast, the idolaters clutched their false idols closely, but even they felt the tremors of change beneath their fingers. A mother among them gazed into the lifeless eyes of her statuette and felt little more than defeat. Would she continue to chase the shadows of fulfillment, or would she dare to seek the truth that lay in the silence beyond the noise? In that moment of clarity, the weight of her heart began to lift, but courage was still needed to relinquish what she adored so wrongfully. Isolated from the others, the silent ones remained shrouded in their personal storms. A hidden gathering unfolded among them, where confessions turned from a trickle into a flood. Each shared their burden, their stories intertwining with fragility and strength. Amidst the tears, one voice rose: "What if our silence is our greatest sin? We grieve alone rather than seeking solace together." Was their greatest failing in refusing to embrace community find strength in vulnerability? As the sun ascended higher, casting rays of warmth over the trembling earth, all groups, unaware of their divine intersection, felt the stirrings of something profound within them. Questions bubbled forth, intertwining their fates as they neared a reckoning. Transformation hovered on the horizon, yet the choice to embrace it lay solely in their hands. What truths could bind them together before that first light fully broke? And would any of them choose surrender their weight rather than armor themselves against the dawn's revelation? The stage was set, but the answers remained lost in the echoes of their hearts. As the sun climbed higher, its light broke upon the earth with an intensity that seemed to pierce through the veil of doubt and fear enveloping the five groups. Before them lay a tapestry of choices, woven with the threads of their silent struggles and vocal facades. The air shimmered with the weight of a decision yet to be made, a choice that would alter their paths irrevocably. Among the merchants, the one who had questioned the value of his gold felt a stirring deep within. While his companions clung to their coins, calculating profit and loss, he began to see wealth through a different lens. What if my treasure lies not in abundance but in generosity? He pondered, feeling the first embers of courage ignite within him. This thought consumed him. Was it possible that treasure was not measured in silver and gold, but in the laughter of children, the gratitude of the needy? With every heartbeat, he felt the call to share, yet still, a gnawing fear lingered. What would happen if he gave everything away? The hypocrites, too, could not escape the gnawing discomfort of their own existence. The leading voice, amidst the frenzy of their discussions, faltered as he faced the unyielding echo of his own conscience. What if our sacrifices serve only to conceal our lies? He found himself whispering, words spilling from his lips before he could swallow them back. A look of panic washed over his companions. There was fear and vulnerability, yet a flicker of recognition passed between them. Would they dare to seek authenticity, to face the depths of their flaws instead of seeking refuge in the shadows of deceit? The scoffers, with laughter still ringing in their ears, began to feel the tremors of doubt shake the very foundations of their bravado. The young man, who had remained silent, suddenly found his voice tinged with a sincerity he had never mustered before. "Is laughter a shield," he bellowed, "or a mirror reflecting our own emptiness?" The jesters quieted, a palpable unease rising like steam from the ground. Could laughter, once their armor, now bear their vulnerability? Was it possible that their mockery masked something deeper, an aching desire for truth, connection, and acceptance? In the clutch of idolaters, the mother cast down her gaze, her grip on her idol faltering as the sun illuminated the shadows of her understanding. "If I abandon this," she murmured, "what will I hold on to?" But the urgent whisper of her heart urged her on. "There is a different truth waiting for you beyond this facade." In that moment, she felt the stir of possibilities. What might await in the embrace of the unknown that promised authenticity and true fulfillment? Yet, the question plagued her: could she truly sever the bond forged by years of misplaced devotion? Among the silent ones, the flood of confessions echoed in the hallowed circle they had created. The voice that had previously stirred the group now grew louder, imbued with conviction. "Each burden we hide is a fracture in our collective spirit. What if we forged bonds stronger than our secrets?" As each shared their heart's truth, the weight of their solitude dissipated, revealing a glimmer of hope. Would they dare to lean into this sacred vulnerability, or would fear strip them of the courage necessary to form a community? The sun now blazed overhead, illuminating not just the landscape but the hearts of all gathered in their distinct groups. The air was thick with anticipation, a tangible energy of potential rebirth. And amid this dawning realization, the whispers of divine presence seemed to beckon them toward unity, calling not just to acknowledge their struggles, but to weave their paths together. Yet as they teetered on the edge of transformation, an unsettling thought loomed: was it merely a glimmer of hope, or the beginning of something infinitely more demanding? What if the true revolution lay not just in the act of change, but in the surrender of their current identities, leaving behind everything they thought they knew? Would they unite before the full light of truth descended, or would they scatter back into the shadows, forever holding those revelations at bay? As the sun continued its ascent, casting a radiant glow over the groups, there was a moment when time seemed to stand still, a sacred pause inviting reflection. The surrounding stillness was abruptly broken by a sudden rustle, as if the earth itself was breathing anew. Each group felt a shift in the air, a stirring presence that both frightened and ignited their hearts. For the merchants, the man who felt the urging to give found himself at a crossroads, the challenge of introspection leaving him unsettled. Shadows danced in his mind, images of the streets filled with the needy swirled in his vision. What if I found joy in the act of giving rather than in the hoarding of wealth? He whispered aloud, his breath trembling with the weight of his own fear. In response, a murmur swept through his peers, many shifting uneasily at the prospect of generosity's call. Could his voice resonate with their souls, or would the fear of perceived loss drown out the cries of misfortune that clawed at their hearts? Meanwhile, the leading hypocrite, still grappling with his unsettling confession, felt the gravity of his words hang in the air like a storm cloud overhead. Is it too late for us to embrace the truth? He pondered, glancing toward the others. Their expressions were a mix of disbelief and yearning, reflecting fractured souls. What if our lives could mean something beyond our facade? The question hung palpably, tethered between vulnerability and the desire for change. In this moment, a choice lay bare before each soul: could they shatter their carefully constructed masks, or would the fear of authenticity render them silent once more? In the circle of scoffers, the young man who had spoken felt emboldened by the haunting resonance of his own inquiry. What if our laughter must evolve into deeper understanding? He urged, seeking to peel away the layers of jest that had protected their hearts for too long. A silence fell, deep and resonant. As the tension built, he sensed an awakening in his peers, yet a flicker of apprehension remained. Can one build solidarity on the shadows of mirth, or does true camaraderie demand a confrontation with pain? Turning to the group of idolaters, the mother now stood rigid with determination, the idol feeling almost foreign in her hands. What if I find deeper roots in relinquishing what I cling to? She spoke with a newfound conviction. Her heart thudded against her ribs, each word daring to carve a path through her fear. The resonance of her self-doubt intertwining with hope ignited a spark in the others. Would they allow her courage to guide them, or would the fear of losing comfort keep them shackled to their pasts? Among the silent ones, emboldened by their journey, a woman finally broke free from the confines of her stillness, her voice trembling but resolute. What if our confessions can lead to a light unforeseen? Her words resonated deep, creating a rippling effect that breathed life into their shared moment. A collective shift occurred as the air thickened with the scent of hope mingled with courage. Yet doubts loomed, like clouds on the horizon. Could they truly navigate the treacherous waters of vulnerability without capsizing? As each group wrestled with their revelations, an otherworldly quiet enveloped the scene, as if nature itself was holding its breath, waiting. Suddenly, a flash of light pierced the clouds overhead, casting shimmering rays upon them. Each individual felt a stirring within, an urgent call to action that transcended their individual struggles. The sun's light took on a golden hue, a beckoning reminder of divine presence, urging them toward a shared destiny. Yet amidst the illumination, a haunting realization took form: were they ready to confront the shifts required to emerge renewed, or would they shrink from the echoes of truth present within their souls? In the face of doubt lingered a deeper question, one that festered and challenged their resolve. What sacrifices would each one need to make in order to uncover authentic unity in this transformative moment? As the dawn's embrace warmed the earth, hints of morning mist lingered like the remnants of forgotten dreams. Each group stood on the precipice of destiny, their hearts entwined in a common yearning to seek truth, yet tethered by unseen chains forged from fear and doubt. The light, bright and unwavering, acted as both an invitation and a revealing shard of clarity that illuminated their innermost conflicts. The merchant, still wrestling with his newfound desire to part with his riches, gazed up at the brilliance cascading from the heavens. Is greater wealth not found in shared burdens? He questioned, his thoughts roaming toward the neglected faces of those he had previously overlooked. What if, in giving, he unlocked a source of joy greater than the fleeting satisfaction of accumulated treasures? Yet the whispering winds carried a counterargument that echoed in the hollows of his heart. Could generosity breed vulnerability, leading him to a desolate state of even deeper want? His knuckles turned white as he clenched his fists, torn between the comfort of security and the wild promise of liberating his soul through the act of giving. On the periphery, the hypocrite's revelation clung to him like a heavy cloak, pressing against his chest. If we choose to embrace our truth, how will our past selves reconcile with the light of honesty? He murmured, a tear escaping the confines of his heavy eyelid. The faces around him twisted, each wrestling with the ghosts of their crafted identities. What if the fragile bonds they built around superficiality began to unravel? Could they trust the unseen thread woven by sincerity? The question hung between them, a palpable tension laced with the uncertainty of what lay beyond their facade. Among the scoffers, the young man felt a potent mix of anticipation and trepidation. As we shed our laughter, what new narratives might emerge? He wondered aloud. His colleagues eyed him, awareness dawning upon their faces like the first rays of the sun breaking through an overcast sky. What lies hidden within their hearts, waiting for voices bold enough to bring forth stories untold? Could it be that laughter, once a shield, transformed into a chorus of healing and understanding? With every heartbeat, he sensed a flicker of possibility for deeper connection stirring beneath their mirth, yet a hesitance remained. Could humor coexist with the gravity of their truths? Meanwhile, the mother's grip on her idol grew shakier, the weight of her life choices pressing down as she contemplated the path of surrender. Can I truly relinquish my grasp on this false security? Her voice trembled with uncertainty, but in her ears, a soft response echoed back, what if the chains you bear lead only to the prison of despair? Each breath felt laden with the complexity of her decision. Would she be willing to unearth the deeper roots of faith hidden beneath the layers of habit? As her resolve bloomed, she realized that embracing vulnerability might yield a profound strength, yet what if she faltered and was left without a familiar anchor in the storm of change? Then, there was the silent Oni woman once consumed by her own shadows now filled with a fire that transformed her quietude into a beacon. What if our collective confessions carried the weight of communion? She questioned, her voice now an infusion of hope threaded with fear. A few in her company exchanged hesitant glances, their guarded hearts beginning to lean toward openness. What shared burdens might unite them in vulnerability, and could those very confessions shatter the illusions that had kept them apart? Yet, even amid this awakening, doubts lingered like thorns, the fear of rejection, of lingering consequences, stifling their courage to unveil the tapestry of their shared humanity. As the celestial light intensified, it appeared to draw them closer, urging all groups toward the center. A tangible force of unity began to reshape the essence of their gathering. Yet, as they stared upward, a flicker of trepidation coursed through their ranks, surrounding shadows began to loom once more, reminding them that transformation demanded sacrifice. A silence fell, thick and taut, and in that stillness lay a question that resonated in unison: what price would each of them need to pay to unveil the beauty of their interconnectedness and step into the light? As the shadows grew longer and the sun dipped lower, casting a warm golden hue over the gathering, the air seemed thick with the weight of unvoiced truths. Each individual felt the pressing need to confront the dissonance within themselves, yet they stood paralyzed at the threshold of revelation. It was in this delicate moment that a soft breeze stirred, carrying with it the mingled sense of earth and blooming life, invoking a deeper introspection. The merchant, still wrestling with his conflicting desires, felt an awakening within him. What if my true fortune is not in holding tightly to my riches, but in pouring out what I possess? He mused, looking at the faces that surrounded him, faces marked by the burdens of hunger and weariness. In this contemplation, the essence of generosity dawned upon him like the breaking of dawn over a horizon once shrouded in darkness. Could it be that the power of his wealth was not merely in possession but in its capacity to cultivate hope? Yet, as this illumination flickered in his heart, a deep-seated fear gripped him. What if he was to give freely and found himself in deep want, longing for the refuge he had once known? Meanwhile, the hypocrite clutched at the fibers of his fabrications, questioning the merit of a life wrapped in deception. Am I merely a reflection of what others perceive, or is there something deeper still waiting to be uncovered? He pondered, staring into the depths of his own reflection in the eyes of those around him. Would the road to authenticity dissolve the very person he swore to protect, or would it reveal a more profound version of himself destined for connection and understanding? The fear of reckoning weighed heavily within him, whispering doubts of separateness and isolation, yet a sensation danced at the back of his mind, a glimmer of hope that perhaps honesty could transcend the shadows of his past. Among the scoffers, the young man felt the awkward tremors of uncertainty meld with a burgeoning curiosity as he spoke again. If laughter can be a door, what lies beyond it? What if joy could intertwine with pain, forming a tapestry of shared experience that draws us closer? He sought the courage to step through that door. What stories concealed behind closed hearts had yet to emerge? Could humor transform into a vessel that carried their confessions and sorrows, bridging the gap between clumsy hearts? His thoughts spiraled into uncharted territories, igniting a flicker of daring to delve deeper into the interplay of their shared vulnerabilities. In the midst of the growing tension, the mother tightened her grip momentarily, feeling the coolness of her idol against her palm. What do I find when I let go of the ache of control? She questioned, her voice trembling as she reached an inner crossroads. Was it truly possible that yielding her fears could lead to the discovery of a journey that held more fulfillment than any false sense of security? Tentatively, she pondered the potential loss, but beyond that shrouded horizon lay a flicker of authenticity. Would her willingness to embrace vulnerability connect her with deeper faith and strength, or would she dwell in haunting echoes of inadequacy? As the silent woman, now emboldened, looked upon her companions, she sensed an awakening within the fabric of their togetherness. Might our truth-telling not only uncover our wounds but also weave tapestries of resilience? She ventured, her voice inflected with newfound determination. In breaking the silence, a silent thread of communion wove among them. Could the act of confession create a safe haven for collective healing? Yet, even as their hearts opened, doubt tangled in the corners of her mind, a worry that the weight of their shared stories might crush their newfound unity rather than liberate it. Now, amidst the collective questioning and hesitant strides toward uncovering their truths, the gathering felt the air shift, charged with anticipation. The celestial light continued to intensify, illuminating not just their physical forms but seemingly igniting dormant spirits. Aching for freedom. As they stood on the cusp of transformation, like a tightly coiled spring ready to uncoil, an unshakable question murmured within the depths of their hearts: could they embrace the vulnerability required to emerge into the light? Hidden fears laid bare, risking the collapse of illusions, in pursuit of a union that might transcend their deepest insecurities. As the golden hues of twilight deepened, the gathering stood on the brink of self-discovery, a congregation at a crossroad, their internal struggles hanging in the air like a pregnant silence. The atmosphere buzzed with unarticulated emotions, and though the sun began its descent, the warmth of their shared questions radiated like the last embers of a fading fire. In this charged moment, the merchant felt an urgent tug within him. The weight of his possessions, once a source of pride and security, now felt like chains binding him to an existence devoid of genuine purpose. What if I offer not only my wealth but also my time, my energy, my spirit? He pondered. A vision bloomed within him of a community nurtured by love and generosity. Yet, as doubt wove its way through his fervent thoughts, he recalled the murmurs of those who warned against folly. A heart exposed could easily be trampled by heedless hands. Was the true cost of compassion an irrevocable loss of self? The hypocrite, engrossed in his own tumultuous reflection, felt a yearning to disentangle the web of lies that had cocooned him for so long. What more lies beneath this surface? He whispered to himself, trembling with the weight of potential vulnerability. Could unveiling these layers reveal a truth so raw it would shatter every facade? A flicker of courage sparked as he considered the prospect of embracing his authentic self. Yet with caught a fleeting hope came the lingering dread that he might lose everything he had constructed, a life built upon threads of deception. Must he really brave this abyss for the sake of freedom? As laughter danced nervously among the scoffers, the young man redirected his curiosity toward his own share of suppressed fears. When joy conceals sorrow, how do we balance the act of being whole? He questioned aloud, staring at the flickering fire between them. If we allow pain to inform our laughter, what tales might surface? The imaginative threads of his thoughts swirled about possibilities, envisioning a tapestry woven not just with the brightness of joy but interlaced with somber hues of struggle. Yet, a deeper doubt gnawed at him: would they find kinship in their shared pain, or would it cast them into further isolation? Meanwhile, the mother searched within for the courage to yield. What would it look like to untangle the grip of control? She pondered, her voice trembling, barely above a whisper. Before her lay the choice to either forge ahead with her ironclad grasp on certainty or let the winds of change sweep her into the unknown. Could relinquishing her fears gift her the strength to embrace her role as a nurturing soul? And yet, what if her pursuit of openness led to vulnerability so profound that it unraveled the very fabric of her identity? As the silent woman stood encircled by her friends, her newfound voice resonated like a bell within the stillness. In our confessions, do we not uncover the divine thread that unites us all? She proposed, her words trembling on the edge of revelation. Was their collective unburdening not a mystical invitation to grace? In this moment of communion, however, doubt sneaked back into her heart, whispering that their attempts to heal as one could instead weave a shroud of despair over them, a heavy cloak of shared burdens too great to bear. As the daylight surrendered to twilight, the gathering felt their spirits aching for release, and an unquenchable yearning coursed through them, begging to be expressed. What lay beneath the surface of their individual struggles remained an enigma, yet the desire for authenticity seemed to ignite a deeper understanding of their shared journey. They stood on the precipice of vulnerability, poised between peril and profound connection. In the overwhelming silence, a question hung in the air, electric with possibility. In their quest for truth, could they risk the very foundation of who they thought they were, or would the act of unveiling their souls lead them to a more profound liberation and unity? As the shadows deepened and the stars began to peek through the shroud of night, the gathering sensed a magnetic pull toward the heart of their struggles. Each individual stood delicately balanced between revelation and retreat, a collective embrace of the unknown tinged with hesitation. Their breaths mingled, each exhalation holding a thread of truth waiting to be woven into the fabric of their shared narrative. The merchant, still grappling with the heaviness of his riches, raised his voice amid the crackling firelight. "What if our treasures are not shackles but keys?" he asked, his eyes flickering with an uneasiness that belied his eloquence. "What if every coin and every trade could instead serve a purpose? Might our wealth, when shared, unlock doors to deeper connections and divine encounters?" His thoughts hung suspended in the air like early morning mist, fragile yet persistent, yet within him, a question clamored for attention: would surrendering his treasures truly liberate him, or would it reveal a vulnerability sitting uncomfortably alongside the boldness of his vision? The murmur of the crowd at his back stirred restlessly, their expressions a tapestry of skepticism interwoven with hope. In turn, the hypocrite seized upon the merchant's words, suddenly struck by an epiphany. What if the lies I've told myself have been the very chains binding me? He let the silence drench his spirit, contemplating the potential grace hidden within the wreckage of his facade. Could humility be my undoing, or would it be the beginning of a deeper joy? Internalizing the questions, he felt as though he were peeling away layers crafted over years, the ache of self-discovery both thrilling and terrifying. The young man, his heart flickering like the embers, felt a deeper chord resonate within the crowd. To infuse joy with sorrow could weave a rich narrative, a tapestry more potent than one draped solely in laughter, he posited, a note of wonder in his voice. How can we hold space for both emotions without collapsing under their weight? Is our cry for joy drowned completely by our desire to avoid pain? He looked around, seeking assurance in the nods of agreement or the frowns of doubt, desperate to cradle a shared understanding that could cradle distress and delight alike. The mother, inspired by the dynamic discourse around her, breathed deeply, igniting an urgency within. What if by releasing control, we find the true power of our love? Could it be that nurture flourishes in the soil of freedom rather than rigidity? Her voice was steady, but beneath it lay tremors of uncertainty. As she extended the question, she felt an invisible bond pulling her closer to those gathered with her, a yearning for connection that could only thrive in shared freedom. Then, the silent woman interjected, her newfound strength lending gravity to her words. Is grace not a floating lantern flickering, beautiful, but perilous? In our openness, can we not forge a path to understanding that transcends our fears? Her voice rose and fell like a gentle tide, inviting them to envision a world where vulnerability bred not despair but communion in their collective struggles. Amidst their explorations of truth and fear, a tension crackled within the circle, a sacred electricity birthed from their honest endeavors to peel back layers they had so carefully crafted. Each soul yearned to leap, yet they hesitated at the brink of revelation, uncertain of what awaited them in the depths beneath. As the night deepened, the stars above seemed to flicker in affirmation, reflecting both their hopes and fears. Was their desire for intimacy enough to unravel the threads of illusion they had clung to? In this dance of dialogues, would they find their way to salvation, or would the very act of revealing their truths cast shadows longer than their fears? The questions hovered, vibrant and hungry, urging them forward into the unknown. As the fire crackled, and its warmth mingled with the cool night air, an unspoken understanding blossomed among the gathered souls. They were on the precipice of a revelation that hinted at truths deeper than they dared to voice. Each heart beat with the rhythm of uncertainty, yet the air thrummed with possibility. The merchant, now enveloped in the twilight of contemplation, pondered aloud. What if the treasures we hoard reflect only the depth of our fears? In chasing material wealth, do we not mirror the very void we fear to confront? His voice trembled with a mixture of challenge and vulnerability, inviting others to grapple with their own relationships to what they deemed valuable. As he spoke, the hypocrite found courage in the merchant's probing words. And what of our masks? He interjected. Each facade we wear conceals not only ourselves but also the truth ingrained in our connections. Are we not imprisoned by the very roles we play, carefully crafted to hide the frailty of our spirits? The melody of his thoughts resonated in the air, echoing the longing for authenticity amidst artifice. The young man's heart raced, fueled by a sudden clarity. If our grief is just as holy as our joy, what then does it mean to embrace both fully? In rejecting pain, do we not also deny the fullness of life itself? The flame in his heart brightly illuminated the path of inclusion, where laughter danced with tears. He extended his arms toward the heavens, as if inviting the stars to witness their journey toward understanding. Suddenly, the mother, who had been silent as the revelations unfolded, felt an inert spark ignite within her. But who will hold our truths? Who will cradle the shards of our brokenness, allowing us to emerge anew? Is vulnerability not a bell that tolls for Allah, call for compassion as we share our burdens? Her words hung in the air, heavy with urgency, revealing the profound weight of interdependence in their evolution. With her pulse quickening, the silent woman now stood taller, her voice transforming into a song of hope. Grace, then, is not simply an isolated blessing. It is the collective embrace of our frailty and strength, allowing light to seep into the cracks of our existence. The depth of her declaration resonated as it birthed a long vacant space of trust, beckoning each heart to contribute to the growing tapestry woven among them. As the conversation deepened, the shadows lengthened, and a sense of foreboding wrapped around them like a cloak. The questions transformed from mere queries into a haunting melody weaving through their thoughts. Could revealing their truths lead to a cascading freedom, or would they instead ensnare themselves further in the fears that had plagued them? Amidst the firelight, the world outside their circle felt distant and cold, but here the spark of connection illuminated their common plight. Each person searched not just for answers but for the courage to step into the unraveling, to let their vulnerabilities intermingle, forging not chains but a bridge into rebirth. As they looked into one another's eyes, the night held its breath, anticipation hung thick in the air, as if the heavens above were taking note of their unfolding narrative. Was there a version of truth that could draw them closer together rather than drive them apart? As they pondered this, the flickering stars bore witness to their shared uncertainty, leaving them to question what awaited them should they dare to expose their raw selves. Would it lead to liberation, or would it reveal the darkness lurking just beyond the flickering light? As the night deepened and shadows danced playfully under the celestial tapestry, a change began to unfold, one so profound that it breathed new life into the weary souls who gathered. The air shimmered with an electric tension, a divine whisper that beckoned them closer to a revelation they scarcely dared to imagine. That it was in that moment of uncertainty that the merchant, emboldened by a flicker of courage, stepped forward. What if our greatest treasure lies in unmasking ourselves to one another? He proclaimed, his voice steady yet resonant with vulnerability. The firelight caught the tears glimmering at the corners of his eyes, tears not of despair, but of awakening. What if sharing my wealth, my burdens, my very soul is the key to unlocking true abundance? It is with open hands and open hearts that we take back our freedom from the chains of doubt. The murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, igniting hearts once dimmed by greed and fear. It was a moment suspended in me, a daring leap into the unknown as the sun had momentarily dipped into the realm of the horizon, hinting at the possibility of a new dawn. Next, the hypocrite felt his heart racing, emboldened by the sincerity that seeped through his peers. And what if I laid bare my deception, embracing the raw truth of who I am? He urged, vulnerability saturating his voice. In the act of shedding my layers of falsehood, could I find resurrection rather than ruin? Might authenticity craft a deeper bond than the fragile web I spun to protect myself? His words took root, inspiring quiet reflection among the others. They felt the weight of their collective fears shifting as the painful echoes of their conditioned roles began to dissipate. Yes, said the young man, his voice breaking the heavy silence. What if we allowed our laughter to be coupled with our tears? What if humor is the conduit through which we can traverse pain together? If we forge a bond out of both joy and sorrow, could we become stronger, more unified? He cast his gaze toward the sky, where stars twinkled with an ancient wisdom, as if to say that both light and dark exist for a reason in the fabric of life. With every word, the atmosphere thickened, charged with a sense of urgency to embrace their truth and transform their collective destiny. The mother, clutching the remnants of her idol, felt the iron grip of fear slowly loosening. What if, by letting go of my false security, I find a wellspring of love where I once thought I had none? She asked, her voice trembling yet hopeful. Will relinquishing my hold on what has brought me comfort lead me into the arms of genuine connection? As her conviction grew, a nearly palpable energy surged among the gathering. The silent woman, spurred by the courage unfolding around her, raised her voice. And what if we truly answered the call for communion? In confessing our hidden struggles and burdens, can we learn to find solace and healing together? The gravity of her words echoed against the night, and a sense of hopeful anticipation settled upon them like a warm embrace. In that moment, the air crackled with the promise of transformation. The gathering of lost souls began to converge in a movement toward unity. Each individual stepped forward, breaking the chains of solitude and fear that had kept them silent. As they formed a circle, hands clasped together, the divide that once isolated them started to blur. The brighter the circle became, the darker the shadows receded. They dared to share their fears, their longings, their pain, and ultimately their grace. One by one, burdens were lifted, and a powerful tapestry of vulnerability wove between them. A strength forged from the raw authenticity each brought to the circle. As the first light of dawn began to stretch across the horizon, casting its golden hues upon the earth, they realized that they were no longer simply a group in despair. They had transformed into a family bound by faith, connection, and love. Each had surrendered something deeply rooted within the grasp of materialism, the stifling weight of pretense, and the hesitance of silence, only to find a richer experience of existence. With the sun rising behind them, illuminating their faces with warmth, a collective sigh escaped their lips. They had stepped into the light of understanding together, a baptism of sorts, cleansing their past and gifting them the strength to embrace the future. The merchant had discovered the treasure in his heart, not buried in gold, but in generosity. The hypocrite became a beacon of authenticity, illuminating the paths of others. The scoffers, once shrouded in laughter, found joy entwined with the depth of true connection. The mother became a nurturer of souls, while the silent woman unveiled her voice and became a vessel of collective healing. As dawn broke over the valley, and the shadows of night retreated, they stood hand in hand, transformed by their journey and the power of their shared revelations. From that moment on, they were forever changed, not just in their schemes or roles but in the very essence of who they were meant to be, a community anchored by love, rising together against the temptations of darkness. In unison, they spoke a prayer of gratitude, a whisper that echoed not just in the desert but resonated through the corridors of time, reminding the world that true salvation lies in embracing one another's truths, ultimately lighting the way for those still wandering in shadows, and thus, the dawn broke not only in the sky but also in the souls of each person present, heralding a powerful truth that reverberated across the ages: when hearts unite in the spirit of vulnerability, they become the architects of healing and hope, capable of transforming darkness into light. And that light, once nourished, shines forever bright, illuminating even the faintest echoes of lost souls searching for redemption.